Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Guiding Star with Kesenya. It's a pleasure to be with you for this week's Astro Weather Report, and I'm your Astro Weather Girl, and thanks for joining me. Thanks also to those of you who subscribe to my channel. I want to let you know that I really appreciate and love you. I'm so glad that you join me most weeks for all my weather reports and my bits and pieces on astrological knowledge and teaching. For those who aren't aware, I also have an Instagram page and a Facebook page, Guiding Star with Kesenya, and the links are in the description below, where I do a daily oracle card reading and share articles about astrology for those who are interested. And of course, if you would like a reading with me, you can do so by visiting my webpage, www.guidingstar.astrology.com. And there's a number of webinars and products and readings, obviously, that you can purchase if you would like. With that in mind, I wanted to just share that I've been talking with a business manager about the potential of putting up my product, the price of my products, in line with what other astrologers are charging. At the moment, mine are actually quite cheap by comparison. If you want to compare prices, by all means do so. But my business manager has been advising me for quite some time now to put my prices up. I am thinking about it. I don't really want to, because I like astrology to be available for everybody. But it is something I'm considering. So with that in mind, I'll hopefully give you a lot of warning if I end up doing that. But if you want to jump in early and get a reading or a webinar for the cheaper price before I go down that road, then I'd encourage you to do so. The other thing I also want to mention is that I want to offer a special, because we're coming up to the astrological new year, one of my favorite times of year actually, and I love it when we begin something fresh. And what's going to happen is the sun's going to move into Aries in roughly 2 weeks' time, and that is when we're going to begin a whole brand new astrological cycle of the sun moving around the horoscope. It's known as the astrological new year. And because of this, in this intervening 2-week period lead up, I want to offer one of my favorite products at a discounted rate, $50 off. This is the product that I'm talking about here, which is my astrology wheel. And it's those of you who've bought one know how much fun it is and how great it is for learning astrology and for teaching online. The Astro Fashionista, she's a wonderful astrologist. She utilizes this online. Big kisses and shout out to you, Tamiri. But there's a number of other people using it as well, but this is a really great resource for explaining astrology and how it works. It's almost a little like a board game, actually. So this is now reduced to $50 off and the usual recommended retail price. And so if you would like to purchase one, pop over to my website, www.guidingstar.astrology. It's only for the next 2 weeks that I've got this $50 off running. And that's because I wanted to celebrate the start of the astrological new year. I probably should also point out, although I can see that the reflection of my lighting is coming up in here, but this is metal, and it comes with magnetic planets that you can place anywhere you want to, shift them around to help with your explanations. I do have a version that is a fuzzy felt version. It's not quite as advanced as this one, which is my premium product, because you can write on this. You can write on this with a whiteboard marker and then rub it out, so you can make sort of notes and angles and aspects and all sorts of things like that as you need to. And that's where this one excels over and above the fuzzy felt version, which is you can't write on, obviously. So this one is the premium product, and this is the one that has $50 off at the moment. So on with the astro weather for this week. Oops, I'll just put this fellow away. Just for those of you who've got an astro weather wheel, they work really well sitting up on a cake plate display holder. So that's what this one, I don't know if you can see it in the background, is doing there. Can you see it? Oh, a little bit. It's sitting up on a cake plate, which is great if you want it hands-free. You can also hang them on the wall. If you put a little hook on the back, hang it on the wall, and away you go. So what's happening in this week's astro weather sky? Well, we will all be delighted to realize Mercury has now turned direct. And for me, this is one of the best things about this week, because I don't know about you, but Mercury retrograde this time around was pretty heavy duty. Mainly for me because it was retrograding in the sign of Pisces, and it's now moved backwards into Aquarius. It'll be going direct now into, again, the sign of Pisces, but with forward momentum. I found and observed that this particular transit of retrograde Mercury was intense in realms of people being ripped off online, people being swindled, people getting things stolen from them, particularly anything ruled by Mercury, like technology. Internet scams, they abounded. So one of the shadow side energies of Pisces is deceit. And so this is what we really saw a lot of, people being deceived with this retrograde Mercury during this 3-week period. Thank God it's over. I also had a lot of people coming to me and saying, I want to break up with my boyfriend, but I don't know if I should, or my girlfriend had that as well, don't know if I should break up during Mercury retrograde. And the answer for that is always no, wait until after Mercury turns direct. Because although Mercury doesn't correlate with our relationships, unless, say we're a Pisces rising and he rules our 7th house or something, Mercury isn't a direct correlation to relationships the way Venus is. He is our thought processes. He rules our way of thinking, and our thinking is internalized and goes very deep at this time. And so we're assessing things much more than we usually would. And our the words of other people to us have a bit more impact, more weight, and we're reconsidering and so on. Really, we want to use this Mercury retrograde, or we should have used this Mercury retrograde period as a time for assessing. Not taking action, not making big decisions like I'm going to dump my girlfriend. It's a time for reviewing and going inward with your thought processes, considering things. Now that Mercury's turned direct, if you are still in a place where you think, I've had enough of this relationship, I've done my reviewing and my considering for the last 3 weeks, no, it's over. Then you can make your decision when Mercury is direct and know that you've gone deep with things, you've thought about things thoroughly, and now you can take action. But if you've come to the end of this Mercury retrograde season and you're like, you know what? I actually feel a rekindling of love for my partner, and maybe I just needed to process some internal wounds or thoughts around love and relationships, and it was actually me that has had the issues, not the relationship, then, keep going, So we can actually be getting, when Mercury is turned direct, around the same time as we've got Venus and Uranus connecting together in the sky. It's a time for taking a different approach to love, looking at things through a new lens, being a little bit more authentic, a little bit more real with our approach to relationships. Uranus conjunct Venus at this time. So all of these energies are mixing in together and bringing us to a certain point in our lives where we'll then take action now that Mercury has turned direct. In a simple sense, it's also time to go get your computer fixed if it's been playing up, or get your car serviced, those sorts of things. I don't recommend doing that during Mercury retrograde because that's when things can go wrong. But now that Mercury retrograde is over, go and get that computer fixed, buy that new tablet or that new iPad or whatever it is. You can actually get involved with your technical equipment in the usual way you would. Now, Mercury is moving into the sign of Pisces this week on the 17th of March. And he's not in good dignity in Pisces. Now, so Mercury in Pisces is actually not considered to be in good dignity. Now, we've recently had Neptune conjunct the Sun in Pisces, and I spoke last week about being careful of energy vampires, people who would suck your energy out. And I certainly had someone of that nature on my YouTube channel comments last week who really wasn't aware of the various ways of calculating dignities in different schools of astrology. So I just encourage people, if you are going to comment on videos online, make sure that your knowledge is up to speed with all the variables regarding astrology before you get aggressive. So here in the sign of Pisces, Mercury will be there on the 17th and then moving directly through Pisces, where it doesn't have all that good a dignity. Basically, when a planet is not in its strongest placement, it's like you're in the house of an enemy or the house of someone who doesn't like you very much. We're still who we are, but we're a bit uncomfortable. Things don't feel quite, at home, at peace with regard to the nature of that planet. It's also been described when a planet is not in good dignity that we can have a little bit of a corrupted influence of that planet. But I really like Ernst Wilhelm's definition, which is that the energy of the planet is just not as strong. It's more subdued when it's in a sign that it's not at home in. So here in Pisces, the energy of Mercury, it's still happening, it's progressing forward, it's moving in an outward manner rather than an inward manner as it does in retrograde. But in Pisces, it's just maybe a bit disorganized. It's lacking in energy. It's not putting out the full potential of this planet. Now, it doesn't mean that Mercury is bad in Pisces, and it doesn't mean it's going to be all crazy like Jack Nicholson in The Shining or something like that, It just means that the energy is more subdued. So when we have Mercury moving through the sign of Pisces, we are going to feel some communicative energies that are positive, but they're a bit more subdued, okay? So we're going to be more soft and gentle in our communication because that's the nature of Pisces. It's much more accommodating. It's kind and it's compassionate. And so our words, our communications are going to take on that tone now when Mercury is moving through here. We might actually have more of an inclination to be more assertive or to talk a lot natally or naturally with Mercury in great strength, but now it's going to be sort of more subdued, more gentle, more quiet, more softer in our communication style. We're not going to be as interested in details because Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is big picture. And so Mercury, which is a detail-oriented kind of planet and energy, is now going to be more subdued in its need to dot the I's and cross the T's and notice the details and do the perfectionist work. Now that energy is going to be subdued a bit and we're going to be less focused on the details than we might otherwise be. Mercury moving through Pisces can make us really brilliant at listening, if not speaking up. Now, that doesn't mean that we suddenly lose the capacity to orate at all, but what it can mean is that it can take us a while to warm up into our communicative energy now while Mercury is in Pisces, because generally we're going to be more inclined to listen and observe while Mercury is moving through the sign of Pisces. It can also make us a little bit moody, and we will, just in our nature, and we will tend to express that moodiness sometimes through our words, but more likely to be through our actual communication, such as emails or on YouTube platforms or in articles for journals. And our written word, sometimes our spoken word, but particularly our written word and our outward expression can show up the sort of the moody, sensitive nature of Pisces. When I say Pisces is moody, it's probably not a good term to actually use, because it's not that Pisces is a moody sign, nor Cancer, nor Scorpio for that matter. I don't see them as moody people. I see them as sensitive. We are very sensitive water sign energy people. And therefore, what's going on in our outer world can affect us quite deeply, and we respond very fluidly, very flexibly to what happens in our outer reality, which others interpret as moodiness. Those of us who are water signs know it's actually a heightened sensitivity to things. Pisces is mask wearing and sort of keeping things a bit hidden, so we can tend to hide our supreme sensitivity and our, if you want to call it moodiness, call it moodiness. We can tend to hide this. So that is why during Mercury's transit through Pisces, we will tend to communicate our sensitivity or our moodiness through the written word rather than the spoken word, because when we put things in writing, it's kind of like there's a buffer there, which is we can sort of make ourselves look and appear as we want to make ourselves look and appear, which is essentially wearing the mask to make sure we create that perfect image. When we're speaking, it's a little harder to hide and to wear that mask. So that's why the written communication now can display a bit more of that sensitive Pisces nature than perhaps the spoken word does. The one area of spoken word where we can wear a bit of a mask is when Pisces lies to protect the happiness of others. It's one of the things Pisces will tend to do. And we might find ourselves doing that a bit when we've got Mercury transiting through the sign of Pisces, We've all had experiences where we have told a little white lie in order to protect the happiness of somebody else. No, your bum doesn't look big in that at all. Maybe just wear your jumper a little lower or something. We've all told the little white lies to protect the happiness of other people, and that can be a bit heightened now with Mercury direct through Pisces. We also, when Mercury is going direct through Pisces, we can say what we think other people want to hear. Again, in order to keep the peace, in order to keep the happiness and keep things buoyant, we will tend to say, oh yes, no, look, I don't mind eating broccoli. That's fine. Go for it. Load the plate up. Not a problem. And inwardly you're going, oh my God, I hate broccoli. I actually like broccoli, so don't think that's me. But that's an illustration, We say what we think other people will want to hear from us. Even if this isn't our personal truth. Basically, we become way too tactful at this time when Mercury's in Pisces. Too open-minded as well can be part of this experience too. And it's a time when we will actually prefer to function by inner intuition rather than by logic. And this is why Mercury is kind of subdued in Pisces, because Mercury is a logical planet. It rules an air sign and it rules an earth sign. Very grounded, very realistic in Virgo, and practically oriented. Very much about logic and intellect in Gemini. And here in Pisces, which is all about the oneness of everybody and flowing with life and being a bit fanciful and having visions and dreams for how good life could be. Here it's kind of difficult for Mercury to want to be able to express its logical, practical capacity because it's in the sign that's all about intuition and flow. So we find ourselves going now, like the energy of Mercury is subdued, and we go more by intuition now rather than by logic and practicality. This is also a time where we can be very impressionable and we do a lot of big daydreaming. Now, as a very strong Pisces person, I don't mind this one bit. I enjoy it. So, maybe it's a good time to take the opportunity to stare out the window and daydream and visualize and imagine what life could be like, what you could make of yourself, what, the world, how the world could be better and we could all be one, that sort of Pisces way of thinking. Now, again, I would say with Mercury moving through the sign of Pisces, it's also, even though he's not retrograde, he's going direct, it's still a good time to be very vigilant about any online deals, any credit card fraud, that sort of thing. Also fraud and deception from co-workers and siblings, which Mercury rules, because the shadow sign of Pisces is deception and deceit, having the wool pulled over your eyes, being deluded about something. And so because Mercury rules credit cards, it rules modern types of financial interaction, like Venus rules money, Mercury rules credit cards and our sort of banking systems and things like that. And it rules anything online as well. Mercury rules a lot of the internet. So does Uranus, from the terms of Uranus rules anything progressive and visionary. We've had the internet on planet Earth for quite a long time now, and so it's losing its more progressive nature, and it's actually governed, devices and things like that governed more by Mercury. So here in the sign of Pisces, do be careful about spending online until Mercury is out of Pisces. I'm not saying don't do it, but make sure it's from reputable sources. And do watch out for online fraud and deception and so forth from co-workers and siblings as well. You might have, as I said, noticed this like I did during Mercury retrograde being particularly strong. Well, I don't think we're quite out of the woods entirely yet because of the nature of Mercury in Pisces. Now, also on the 17th of March, we're having 5 planets in the sign of Capricorn because the moon will be moving there as well. Now, I'll just put the moon there so that we can see what I'm talking about. Here we are. The moon, Mars, Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn. Whew, big energy in Capricorn on the 17th. And we do need to be careful because the malefics are all getting very close to being conjunct, Mars, Pluto, and Saturn. And we all know that these guys are real butt kickers in astrology. They can, on their shadow sides, like there's shadow and light in every sign, planet, and house, but the shadow sides of these 3 can be really quite difficult to navigate. If we're manifesting at a high level, then we're going to be more energized. We're going to be more disciplined and have more routine. And we might actually be more involved in therapy and healing, which is a higher level of Pluto actually. So we could be higher level with these malefics. If we're manifesting at a lower level and not being conscious and not being aware and not walking in spirit and love, then we can start to see aggression play out. We can start to see control and dominance play out. We can start to see authority figures going a bit nuts. Now, I'm not a mundane astrologer where we make predictions for what's happening on the earth for society in general. I work with people as individuals and specifically looking at their charts individually. That's what I like to do. But, we might notice a bit of tension around this time because we're living in a difficult season astrologically, and in mundane astrology we might be noticing a bit of aggression, a bit of power, a bit of control, and authority figures running a bit of amok during this time. But I want to just let you know that this is a karmic expression. The reason being is that every planet has a karmic influence of some description, but Saturn and Pluto, 2 very heavy-duty karmic planets, all about healing the soul and restoring and protecting the soul from karmic past life influences. Jupiter is the planet of past life positive karma. Thank God he's there as well. And the moon is the representative of our general past life karmic experiences. So we've got a lot of this karmic nature in the sign of Capricorn right now. So just to reiterate, Pluto is the karma of trauma and suffering. Saturn is the karma of fears and mistakes we've made in past lives. Mars is exalted in Capricorn, and he represents the karma that we carry from our passions, from sex, and from war and aggression. So, if there's, let's use an example, if there's issues running through your family line, the moon represents the family line. If there's issues running through your family line of karmic difficulties or struggles from the First World War, the Second World War, the Vietnam War, whatever, you might find that those issues are sort of prodded this week and come up for review, come up for healing, come up for catharsis now. Mars rules those kinds of karmic indicators. And as I said, the moon is our general karmic past. So all of these very karmic planets, together with the South Node, that's also a karmic indicator too. We have an intense focus now on our karmic past being addressed and karmic issues coming up that need to be resolved. We might not even know that that's what's going on. But if we have, incidents arise, know that is where it's coming from. So expect seeds that have been sown. Now that can be in past incarnations, but it can also be in this lifetime. Any seeds you've sown are going to come up for harvesting now. So again, it's a bit like the full moon, but we're talking with a stellium energy. 3 or more planets in any given sign is a stellium, and this is going to give a tremendous energetic influence to past karmic seeds that have been sown that now need to be ripened. So if you've been horrible to your parents, or if they've been horrible to you, someone's going to have to pay the karmic consequences of that. And you might have seeds of that pop up now in this next week. If this is an issue, these kinds of themes are of concern to you, then I'd encourage you to check out my video. I'll put the link here. I'd encourage you to check out my video all about Saturn and Pluto and the personal karma report they represent for each of us as individuals. So Saturn Pluto is playing out all year, and this video is from the first week of 2020, so I encourage you to check that video out if you want to know more about your personal karma as it might be represented through these guys making a conjunction. But we can handle this with wisdom now. We can handle this with a little bit more grace through acceptance, through noticing, detaching and noticing what is going on and taking the wise steps to address anything that comes up right now. So maybe you've had some argy-bargy with your family or your mother or your father or something. Maybe now it's a time of restoration for that. Maybe now it's a time to sort of, lay aside all the weapons and say, you know what? Let's put all that behind us and let's start working towards a better future together as a family. Or maybe, your boss has been crap and, you realize I just can't keep going in this situation, and you say enough. And maybe that's actually a karmic occurrence that needed to happen from seeds that were sown many years ago where you didn't know how to take your personal power back. You didn't know how to stand firm in who you are and honor the self. Well, all this energy here might be representing that now is the time for reaping the karmic seeds that were sown. Finally, you've learnt how to take your power back and stand on your own 2 feet and say to your boss, look, sorry, but no, I'm going elsewhere. So many different scenarios. I could be here all day painting pictures of scenarios that this could represent. But just know, wherever Capricorn falls in your chart is where you might be addressing this amped up energy. And I say amped up because there is a stellium there this week that's pretty full on, pretty karmic. That's where a lot of our attention is going to be directed. So let's explore this for all signs now. Let's start with Capricorn itself, perhaps. Let them go first for a change. They've had a pretty rough few years. So let's start with Capricorn as the first house. Well, this is obviously where the karma is going to be directed for you. So it's playing out now very strongly for you more than any other sign. And it's all about how you are surviving and thriving in this incarnation. So it can also correlate to your body's expression. This is where you're going to get some triggering this week, where the energy is going to be focused very, very strongly for you this week. How are you going? Ask yourself, how are you surviving and thriving? If the answer is not very well, Kesenya, then what do you need? What changes need to be made that you can make now to make life work better for you? Maybe it's actually thinking about changing your job, or changing your diet, or changing your image in some way. Maybe you've developed over many years a reputation for being a certain way. Maybe you've been grumpy, or maybe you've been too shy, or whatever it happens to be. Maybe you've developed a certain image, very much first house, and you're not happy with it. It's not helping you survive and thrive in the way that you dream of doing. Well, this week could be the week when you can actually, make changes. It's part of your karma to do so with all this energy focused in the first house. So you may like to, do some sort of, like, maybe you've been a bit complaining and you're sick of being the one who's always complaining about everything. So you decide, I'm going to start an Instagram page with something I'm grateful for every single day, and start training the mind to now survive and thrive through your journey with more positivity, with more of an upbeat attitude, with more of an attitude of gratitude. One example. can happen in many ways. You might like to, you're sick of your image of being unhealthy and unfit. So you know what? You go join the gym, you get a brand new haircut, you develop a new diet, you start cooking really well for yourself, and you change that whole image of health and well-being with regard to the body and how it presents to the world. So many ways that this can be happening for you, but the first house is what's going to be energized for you guys this week very strongly. Also, Pisces. Pisces is your third house, and we talked about Mercury moving through Pisces. This is where your thoughts are going to be on third house things. You're going to be thinking a lot now about writing, maybe speaking, maybe journaling as well, maybe doing some YouTube videos or doing some marketing or some advertising in some way. You might even be thinking about establishing a small business of your own as well. Mercury in Pisces this week is going to be where your thoughts are focused. For Aquarius rising, this is falling in your 12th house. So it's, again, poor old Aquarius. They've had such a year of massive karma, and it's ain't over yet, Red Rover. It's going to be next week very focused on the 12th house being full of that 5-planet energy for you. So really with this placement, you've got to trust whatever comes up. Like the universe is going to bring you incidents and people and circumstances that are calling you to karmically up level. So maybe, we talked earlier about being ripped off by a credit card fraud or an internet scam, or having something stolen maybe as well. We talked about those sorts of things from Mercury retrograde. You may very well find that sort of thing plays out for you in some way. I'm not saying it's going to happen again. I'm just using this as an illustration. Let's say something like that happened, and how you navigate it, how you deal with it, will reveal how much progress you've made spiritually with regard to those kinds of matters. And it's a chance, a test if you want, for you to show to the world how much you've matured. Saturn is there. How much you've matured, how much self-control you have, Pluto, how much positivity and optimism you have evolved into, how much energy, positive energy you can give to the good things now, the good thoughts, the good thought processes of life now. So really, if something comes up for you guys this week, I want to encourage you to go into spirit, or go into creativity, or go into some form of meditative practice, or whatever is healing for you and cathartic for you. Do those things to navigate through the energies rather than be reactive to what happens for you this week. Show the universe, and show your inner self, your higher self, how much you've evolved karmically through whatever incidences occur during this week for yourselves. Also, you have Pisces in your second house. With Mercury here, you're going to be thinking a lot about money. You're going to be thinking a lot about making your life secure and stable, creating the systems that you need to make life work for you at a material financial level. This is where your thoughts are going to be directed right now. So allow yourself to process these things. Mercury's moving direct, so you can make new changes to how you're making money, how you're earning money, looking for jobs if you need a job, or you can actually get a lot out of at this time doing some inner work on the self and self-worth and self-value, and maybe going for the job that you didn't think you had the capacity to get. It is actually a time with Mercury direct in Pisces where you can actually apply for a job that you might have thought was out of reach, because you're really working on self-worth and self-value now. So here in the house of self-worth and self-value, Mercury can direct your thoughts into ways that you can get what you deserve, ways that you can be appreciated now, ways that you can honor what you actually think you're worth in this existence. Okay, so Pisces rising people, well, you've got Capricorn as your 11th house. 11th house from the rising sign. Now, if you want to use sun sign or moon sign, you can, but I tend to work mostly with the rising sign. It has the biggest effect. So here, we see that Capricorn is in the 11th house, so there's going to be some karmic stuff happening for you this week with friendships, because there's just so many planets in Capricorn this week. You might find that some friend comes into your life that you haven't seen in ages, and maybe there's something that needs to be resolved to set you free from that relationship, or to go deeper into the karmic connection that you have with this person. Maybe we don't often realize what is karmic and what is not in life. But if some friend comes into your life and you have a very strong interaction with them this week, or there's something really significant that plays out with a friend, or a social group as well, because the 11th house is social groups. If that's what happens for you this week, then you can kind of rest assured that that's a karmic interaction that needed to play out. I know I have a booking with a friend who works in similar realms to what I do this week, and I know for a fact that she and I have had karmic past lives together, and just so happens that this booking where we're going to be interacting is occurring this week with all this energy in the house of friendship. So again, we're going to go deeper into our karma and into our relationship together with one another that began probably many lifetimes ago. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's not necessarily a negative thing. Do use this energy to strengthen friendships now, to focus on friendships and group involvements, and also to focus on your hopes and dreams, because you're reaping karmic seeds this week. What seeds have you sown regarding your visions, your aspirations, your hopes and dreams? Maybe you aspired to have a certain clientele in your practice, and maybe this week you'll see all this energy amped up in the house of rewards and gains, and you might see that clientele really start to manifest this week as a result of the seeds you've previously sown. So this can be very beneficial on many levels this week if we're manifesting at a high level. And of course, Mercury is moving through your first house, so your thoughts are going to be quite focused on the self, on your ability to survive and thrive this week. How can you make life work better for you? How can you take care of your body now? How can you perhaps you might be looking to change your image or redefine your image to the world, and that can happen for you this week because your thoughts will be directed to that realm. Mercury moving through your first house in this case, as our thought process is directed to how we present to the world and our ability to survive and thrive in this incarnation. So that's for Pisces rising. For Aries rising people, well, you guys are going to be having the energy of karma very strongly felt in the sign of Capricorn, your 10th house. So the 10th house is authority figures. There might be some karmic interaction with authority figures that needs to take place this week. Now, I'm not saying that every interaction with an authority figure is a karmic one, but with so many planets correlating to karmic energy and healing and restoration, then it's highly likely that you might come across, say, a policeman who gave you a hard time in a previous incarnation suddenly manifests again in this incarnation, and you've got to try and up-level from it. You've got to really go into that experience and do better this time, or sow a better outcome this time with whatever, it could be a government person, or it could be a boss, or it could be a manager of some sort of authority figure in your life. It's also the house of the legacy that we want to leave behind us when we're gone. And so what are we creating towards that end? So because these planets herald a lot of karmic influence, you might be reaping the harvest for what you've sown already regarding a legacy that you want to leave. Let's say you want to leave a beautiful recipe book, and all your life you have been collecting the best possible recipes and creating this beautiful recipe book. My grandmother did this for all of us. And maybe you've been collecting all these gorgeous recipes that you love to cook and putting it together in a cookbook. And for some reason, this week is the week when karma is ripened and you actually find a publisher for your book. And so, you go and you take your recipe book and you get it published and you get a copy done for each of your siblings and grandkids, and give it, put it aside for Christmas presents or whatever. I'm not saying it's got to be big worldwide publishing houses, but simply you find a way to put all your efforts creating the legacy you want to leave the world, to bring it to fruition this week. And that can be actually a very karmic ripening. So there's a lot of energy this week connected to what you want to leave for a legacy, connected to authority figures, and also for you Aries rising people for career as well. So do notice what happens in your career this week and use that as an indicator for what is karmically playing out in your life. Maybe you get a promotion as a result of the wonderful seeds of hard work you planted in your organization 5 years ago or something. But definitely a time when we can start to see energy of karmic ripening occurring this week. Also, you have Pisces, as your 12th house, and Mercury is moving there direct this week. And so after the 17th. So your thought processes are going to go into 12th house realms. And so you're going to be thinking a lot now about spirituality, about creativity. You might also be thinking a lot about running away, escaping. Your thoughts can really go there. You might be thinking, God, I need a holiday. It's time I went and booked that, mountain retreat somewhere, or whatever it happens to look like. But you may well be thinking about wanting to get away, have some peace and quiet, have a bit of introspection, going deep into yourself more than usual. Also, spirituality is connected with that. Often we need our own space and our peace and quiet to really go into where are we at right now? What is spirit teaching us right now? You sort of can't do that when you're surrounded by hustle and bustle and tooting horns and screaming babies and housework that needs doing and all that stuff. We tend to if we want to go deep with spirit, we tend to need time out to retreat. So your thoughts are going to be in those realms at this time, and you might also get some pretty serious creative downloads as well this week because of the Sun conjunct Neptune there, but also now with Pisces Mercury giving you thoughts that are connected to creativity and also compassion and spirit as well. So with Taurus as your rising sign, if you want to look at sun and moon, you can as well, but really rising sign is the most impactful. Capricorn energy is your lovely, lucky 9th house, and this is where the energy of karma is going to be focused for you, and the energy where you're going to put a lot of your attention this week is going to fall in the 9th house and 9th house realms. Now, the 9th house is the house of the deeds that we must undertake in this lifetime. Really, if you want to know more about that, there's systems for analyzing the 9th house to determine what your dharmic or dharma deeds actually are. But here you're going to be called more into your dharma. So whatever that happens to be for you personally, and of course that's different for everybody depending on their chart. But whatever your dharma is, you're going to be more energized this week into achieving that, because this is a house where there are 5 planetary energies. There's a focus here. There is like a funnel. We're going to be looking through the funnel at this area of our life most strongly this week. So what is your dharma? What makes you happy? What gives you a sense of joy in the morning that you want to bounce out of bed for? Now, that it's not just career. Our dharma is not just career. Our dharma can be taking care of children. Our dharma could be creating a room full of glorious artworks. Our dharma might be sculpting. Our dharma might be to create a wonderful cupboard full of beautiful homemade dresses. Like, it could be a million different things that is your actual dharma, what brings you joy, what is your kind of purpose in life. So there is going to be a big focus on this realm of life for you this week, and in doing so you might get some sort of event that occurs in your life that triggers you to understand your dharma better. Also, the 9th house is connected to inspirational figures, so you might get an interaction with someone who inspires you towards your dharma further, or you might come across a YouTube video that is just the bee's knees for giving you what you need to succeed in life. And some inspirational person speaking, maybe a TED talk or maybe a special new YouTube channel or something. But really inspirational figures, Dharma. We're also looking here in the 9th house at other cultures. So here we would be expecting to receive some energy regarding cultural activities. Things like maybe doing some preparations for the astrological new year. The 9th house is also culture. And so there might be some cultural celebration that you get the opportunity to participate in, to enjoy, because there's so much attention and focus on the cultural side of things. Now, not everyone's going to jump in a plane and travel to the other side of the world this week, but you might get a chance to, perhaps, for example, I've been watching a Netflix series about ancient medieval England, and it's fascinating and I love it, but it's another culture, very different to modern contemporary Australian culture where I live. So there might be some sort of draw or pull or influence in your life from another culture that happens this week that's actually perhaps more karmic than you realize. For example, let's say you're watching this documentary about ancient medieval, get my words out, medieval England, and you don't know it. But this actually is referencing some experience you had in a past life. And, that goes over your head because we aren't all aware of what our karma was and what our past lives were. And most of us have had many, many, many past lives. So we're experiencing things like this all the time. We don't even know it. But there might be some issue that's unresolved for you from a past life in medieval England, and you're watching this documentary and it's like something gets a bit unraveled in you and you didn't even sort of realize it was a thing. But in watching this doco, you actually tap into that karma. Remember, I said this is a very karmic configuration that we're experiencing. So inspirational figures, Dharma and karma, it's all unfolding for Taurus rising people in the 9th house realm this week. Also, you've got Mercury moving through your 11th house, the sign of Pisces. And so this is where your thoughts are going to be directed this week. You're going to be thinking a lot about your friends, your friendship circles. You're going to be thinking a lot about your ambitions, your dreams, your goals in life. You're going to be thinking a lot about getting rewarded for what you've done. You've put in all this effort for accomplishing whatever it is you want to accomplish, and you're going to be thinking about, well, how can I make this actually pay off? How can I get sort of an award for this? Or how can I get recognition for this? Or how can I get financial remuneration for this? So, you might have done a beautiful work of art and you might be thinking a lot about how can I, what are some competitions that I could enter this in to get recognition? So you might be doing a bit of research online. Your thoughts are going to be directed to how can I receive rewards and gains, what are my dreams and aspirations and visions, and your thoughts are going to be very much with your friends at this time, as well as social groups. You might even be considering joining some social groups with humanitarian, charitable ethoses at this time. So for Gemini rising people, and to a lesser extent Gemini suns or moons too, boom, there we are. The energy of all this Capricornian stuff is falling in your 8th house. And Gemini peeps, you have had it really rough for the last couple of years. A lot of restructuring of how you receive money has been going on for you guys, because 8th house is where we receive from others. It's other people's resources and how they affect us. So for you guys, there's been a lot of attention in this realm, and you might have had to restructure. Let's say you have a business or some trade kind of setup, and you might have had to restructure the resources for that business enterprise, or the trade structure that you've got might have needed to be reorganized over the last couple of years in some way if you're Gemini rising. Hasn't been an easy process because the 8th house is also crisis, where things fall apart in order that they can be rebuilt and remodeled and renovated into something much better. So there's been a lot of attention and karmic attention now for you guys this week as well on what is falling apart in order that something can rise out of the ashes. It's very much correlated with the mythology of the phoenix bird. So the 8th house, I do love the 8th house because it's about restoration, coming out of the underworld and emerging into a brand new springtime. but it does mean going through the darkness in order to get there. And for you guys, you might be experiencing some karmic darkness this week. Now, that sounds scary. I don't mean to scare you. What I'm saying is you might have events pop up in your life that are causing you to reap the harvest that you've sown in the past that maybe wasn't so good. So I was talking a moment ago about what we receive from other people. Maybe you set up a business structure 10 years ago that really wasn't that crash hot and didn't get you the rewards that you deserved. And because of that, now this energy here might be saying, you know, the karma of what you set up means that you haven't got the payback, the monetary resources come into your life from that business that you thought you might. And that can be what the kind of thing we're talking about. I'm not talking about you going into the darkness and, you know, you're actually literally shut away from the world and, you know, everything's falling apart. I'm just saying what you've sown now can bring, there can be a light shone on what you've sown that perhaps hasn't been for the best, but it gives you a chance to remodel, transform, and restructure what you're doing. Say, for example, with that business, now you say, okay, well, I've reaped the rewards karmically. Hasn't been that good. Sort of that's been my dark experience there of lesson learned. Now I'm going to set things in place with a new financial structure, a new financial system, a new way of doing things, and we're going to set things up for a better process in the future. So use this energy this week for good, for gaining knowledge, for gaining understanding and wisdom at this time. And that's what we all need to do with our karmic experiences. Whatever we reap, we need to learn a lesson from. Was it a good harvest? Was it a not so good harvest? Then, you know, we make our assessment. We sow better seeds for the future. We can up level and go through this growth process, this Saturn maturation process as well. So long-winded explanation there, but in short, there is the energy of facing some karmic retribution, karmic harvest. Need not be bad either. It can be a harvest of good. There's this energy of that this week, and then you can restructure and transform your life because of this karmic harvest that you bring in. An example of something good might be that you really supported your mother and father through a difficult period of their life or a difficult circumstance, and they decide to write into their will that you'll inherit the family Rolls Royce or something, or whatever it happens to be. And so it can be a positive reaping and reward of a harvest, that seeds that you've sown that are harvested now. This is also, like I said, the house of wills, legacies, inheritances. So you can get a positive reward in that way, or it could go negative too. It really depends on what you've sown and how integrous that you have been, as it does for all of us. With so much energy in the 8th house, do enter this time, and I'm not going to sugarcoat things, do enter this time with as much integrity as you can manage, and as much belief and faith in the universe as you can muster as well, that the universe has your back this week. Even if things feel like they're falling apart or they aren't really going your way, have faith that it's really just a restructuring process. It's a renovation process where your life is changing in order to create something new, something better, something more wonderful. That's the whole theme of the 8th house, in my opinion, is, the underworld experience that emerges into the springtime. So know that whatever comes this week, it is going to be for your karmic highest good. Your thoughts are also going to be focused a lot this week, Gemini people, on career, because Mercury is moving through your 10th house. You'll be thinking about the legacy you want to leave the world, as well as probably dealing with some legacies that you will be receiving from other people. You'll be thinking a lot about the legacy you want to leave the planet, the world, what you want to be known for. And I mentioned this when I was talking about Aries rising people. Let's say, for example, that you want to leave a legacy of a beautiful cookbook, and you've been gathering your favorite recipes for years and years, and now you've got enough recipes to actually publish this book, and you go and you find a publisher and you just do a short print run, a couple for your parents and for your siblings and your nieces and nephews and what have you, and grandchildren and things, and you publish a short run of this beautiful cookbook that you've spent a lifetime preparing, because you want to be remembered in your family, in your community, as being someone with a beautiful culinary skill. Just an example. And so your thoughts this week, Gemini people, are going to be very strongly directed to what legacy can I leave, and taking action and putting energy into the legacy that you want to leave. So you might get an opportunity to publish something, to write about something, to do some research and planning about something that has to do with a legacy that you want to leave the world. Also, your career will be very paramount in your mind this week as well. Maybe you might also have some communications that you need to undertake with authority figures and bosses. This can be very nice communication, gentle communication, positive interactions communicatively, with Mercury moving through the sign of Pisces, your 10th house. For Cancer rising people, boom, there we are. We've got all this karmic energy in the house of partnership and our social interactions. This is connected to the sign of Libra, the 7th house. And so Libra is very much about our social positioning. And here there might be some karma around that. There's going to be a strong energetic influence in this realm of your life. Could mean that you meet someone, the love of your life, someone you want to partner with the rest of your life. It might mean that you connect with a new business partner that could really change the dynamic of your business. It could mean that you have some social interactions that are very uplifting for you at a social level, get greater status, greater achievement. Saturn in your 7th house can indicate that you want more social recognition, and Saturn has been there for the last 2.5 years. So if you look back to where you were 2.5 years ago, it's quite possible that your social recognition it has increased and is about to really, you're about to reap the harvest of what seeds you've sown towards creating more social recognition, more connected relationships. So what have you been sowing? What in realms of partnerships and relationships have you been sowing wisely and with love? Because you're about to reap rewards for that this week, and it could just happen in little subtle ways. You mightn't even know it's karma playing out, but that's where the energy is very strongly funneled this week into that realm of your life. It might mean that your marriage partner and you go through some sort of a purifying process or an up-leveling process with your relationship. So for example, you might think your relationship's on solid ground, and then some sort of little issue crops up, and you work through it with wisdom, with integrity, and it's actually dealing, you might not realize it, but it's dealing with some karmic issue from a past incarnation when you were interacting together, and you resolve it, and boom, up you go up the ladder of enlightenment. Even if you don't realize that's what's happening, your knowledge increases and the karmic harvest is brought into the barn now through relationship interactions with a partner, with a business partner, and again with society. So for Cancer people, just keep your eye out on your relationships this week and notice any little subtleties that occur that can be a big indicator of karmic purifying that's going on in your own life. Also, your thoughts are going to be very much directed to 9th house issues. You're going to be thinking a lot about what's my purpose, what's my mission, what's my dharma. You'll be thinking a lot about what do I need to do to fulfill my dharma? Who do I need to connect with? Who are some inspirational people that can support me on my journey to fulfilling my life mission? You mightn't be consciously thinking of it in as many words as that, but if you step back and detach and observe your thinking processes, you might find that that's really the crux of what you're on about in your mind, because Mercury is in your 9th house. So you may be thinking very compassionately about the world. How can you help the world? What can you give to support people who are struggling in the world? Because this is a house of other cultures, and you might be looking at other cultures and having a thoughts of compassion Pisces Mercury towards people in other cultures right now. You might also get the opportunity to connect with inspirational figures to help you, like I said, with your Dharma. So let's say you come across a fabulous YouTube channel or a fabulous website that just gives you so much knowledge and wisdom and up levels your understanding and your philosophy and your beliefs, and that really supports your Dharma now and what mission that you are on. The ninth house is the deeds we must accomplish in this lifetime, and it's also the luckiest house in the horoscope. So your thoughts are going to be very much directed to these types of realms and issues, thinking about philosophy, thinking about beliefs, thinking about faith and spirit at this time for Cancer rising people, which can be really, really lovely. All right, so Leo rising people, well, you guys have the energy of all these karmic planets doing their song and dance whoop, 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 in your 6th house. Not an easy place. Aquarius rising, Gemini rising, and Leo rising are all having the intense stellium falling in what the Vedic astrologers refer to as malefic houses, the 12th, the 8th, and the 6th. And so you guys are having, to address some problems and issues, maybe even some self-medicated addictions, maybe some debt issues, maybe some, it could play out in some health concerns as well, maybe some dietary habits that aren't supporting you right now. And what you're doing is reaping the harvest for what's been sown in the past. So maybe if you're Leo rising and you've just got a bit hooked on the alcohol to cope, to get through with life, and now that karma is sort of starting to affect you and you're starting to notice, oh my God, this self-medicating in order to cope, it's not really paying off, and this is a karmic thing that you're going to need to sort of up-level from, and your attention's being drawn to, say, that kind of example this week. With all these planets in the 6th house, it could be that there's an issue of debt that you need to resolve, and it's coming up for you, and you're getting a reminder of it this week because of all this attention being focused in your 6th house realm. Maybe it's, something to do with diseases. I'm not saying that everyone who's a Leo rising is going to have some sort of disease this week, not at all. But there might be some sort of a health thing that you need to focus on, so it might be that your diet's no good and you're really starting to feel lethargic because you're not eating well, so maybe there's a need to karmically address that. We'd need to really look at a person's individual chart to know whether they had karma of bad health and diet in previous incarnations that they need to work on. But this can be calling your attention to something maybe from this lifetime, seeds you've sown, maybe too much chocolate, too much cream cakes, too much of something that's not actually serving you well now, and you can be drawn, your attention is drawn to that with a need to rectify and purify that. This is a very spiritual house actually as well, a practical spirituality, practical service. So, what practical steps do you need to take now to to help you up level from bad diet, bad health, or bad treatment of your pets, or bad money matters and things like that. This is where a lot of the attention is focused. Now, it is also a house of our work. So with all this attention being focused in the 6th house, you might be thinking, you might have a lot of emphasis and energy funneled into your work, and you might be working really hard this week. You might be being very thorough, very very practical, very service oriented. How can this help? How can I fix this? How can I make this better? How can I make my work routine actually pay off for us all in a much better way than it has been, or work in a way that serves us all better, the client and the customer and myself and my colleagues. So you'll be very energized and focused on those sorts of realms of life this week because of the stellium falling here. Plus, your thought processes are going to be on the 8th house. How can you alleviate crisis? How can you transform? How can you grow? How can you leave behind the past that weighs you down and move into a better future? How can you restore your life? So your thoughts are going to be quite connected actually to sixth house kind of ideas too, but it's much more about how can you transform, how can you heal, how can you up level and restore yourself. Your thoughts are going to be directed there. That's what you're going to be thinking a lot about, because Mercury will be in your 8th house. So for Virgo people, the energy of Capricorn and all this massive big stellium is falling for you in the 5th house. This is a very blessed house. It's a fortunate house. And so you guys are actually quite blessed this week. There's a lot of momentum in your chart for more fortune, more prosperity, also more creative self-expression. I would say for Virgo people, this week is going to be a bit off the Richter scale with the amount of creative expression that you're going to be achieving. You know, let's say you do something similar to me, making astrology videos. This could be the week when you bang out at least 10 videos or a new series or a new webinar or something like that, because your creative expression is just so on fire with all this energy here. It's actually part of your karma to do so. All these karmic planets in the 5th house of good karma. 5th house, you Virgo people have been really experiencing a good season of life right now, because this energy, which has been playing out for a while, is falling in the house to do with your good karmic seeds sown. So you are reaping a harvest now for the good works you've done, the compassion you've shown, the kindness you've given, the service that you have offered people. Now is the chance to receive the rewards, and it's going to be even stronger, more strongly felt for you guys this week. So again, creative expression is amped up this week. Not only that, but you know, your connection with children, there's some sort of energy there that can be very, very strong for you this week, or connecting with lovers. When we have more than 3 planets in any given sign, it amps up the energy of that sign and everything it represents in our life. And here in the 5th house, if you're a single person and you're Virgo, you might actually fall in love with all this energy going on this week. You might actually find a new lover, or go on 10 dates, if that's possible in 1 week, go on so many new dates, meeting new people, because there's just so much energy being stirred up in the house of romance and the house of falling in love and pleasure and enjoyment. So it's good times for you Virgo people, I'm happy to say. Also, you're going to be thinking a lot about partnership this week, and collaboration and relationships, because Mercury is moving through your house of committed partnerships. So you might decide you want to collaborate with another YouTuber this week. You might feel that it's a great time to go into some sort of business connection with an advertiser. You might find, the love of your life this week even, But really, your thoughts are going to be focused on connection and partnership. You're going to be thinking a lot about it. You're going to put your attention mentally into connecting and partnering in a business sense, in a relationship sense. Maybe you're already in a relationship. You're going to be thinking a lot about your marriage partner and how can you show them that you love them and how can you support them better. And you'll be thinking a lot about connections and partnership with Mercury moving through Pisces in direct motion. Thank God for that. Okay, so Libra rising, you guys are actually experiencing all this energy of Capricorn right now, 5 planets in Capricorn, down in your 4th house. This is the very private house. This is about your inner emotions and feelings. The 4th house is also connected to our home, our physical home, where we live, and the community we belong to, our inner circle, so to speak, our family, but also, the community that we're part of. 4th house has to do with our heritage. Where the 10th house is the legacy, the 4th house is the heritage. What are you receiving from your ancestors from the past? So there is a great deal of karma here this week for you guys from your ancestors from the past. And you might find that you are really tapping into, in a stronger way than usual, the energies of your ancestors. So you might have Granny come and visit you in a dream with a message from Spirit for you. You might have just a chance to research your family tree, or go back to where grandma grew up, or you might get if you're really lucky, you might get a chance to go back to the, let's say you came from Italy, you go back to Italy and explore where the family was from. There's a connection to heritage, roots, and lineage here. And with so much attention being focused in your chart in that realm, you are going to be very connected to this past. Now, it can be your genetic lineage, but it also could be your spiritual lineage as well if you're a Libra rising person. And so maybe, you are connecting with the spiritual lineage of who you were, say 3 lifetimes ago or something, and drawing on those skills and abilities and energies that you developed in that life. You mightn't realize that that's what's going on, but it can actually be the case. You might also find at the moment, if you are Libra rising, that there are issues in the home. You might like to, you might be thinking more about redesigning your home, restructuring your home, renovating your home. There might be, for those of us who have got sort of difficult aspects with our natal chart here, there might be a problem in the home. There might be a need to get the plumber in, or there might be a need, especially with Pluto here, there might be a need to, address your fireplaces, needs a good clean out or something like that. Mars rules fires. So there might be some issue in the home that needs addressing and rectifying and resolving in some way as well. But your thoughts are, so there's a lot of attention being given to the 4th house, but your thoughts are going to be in the 6th house realm. And these kind of can tie together. If you're looking at your past, your heritage, your lineage, your actual physical home, maybe your maternal line as well, and your family, well, thoughts that you'll be having are connected to, how do I fix problems? Maybe there was a problem with your family and some animosity or some difficulty with the family that's quite karmic and being passed down through the ages, and you're going to be thinking now, how can I resolve this? How can I fix this? Because the 6th house Mercury energy is about, how do we fix things? How do we make things better? How do we improve things? And so you're going to be thinking a lot about how you can improve maybe your work practices, maybe your diet, maybe your health, maybe your routine, or maybe 4th house things like family interdynamics or community relationships. Or you might be thinking a lot about how to fix your home, how to run a better domestic environment. So thoughts are going to be on improvement, making things better, and how that can apply to your current circumstances in life. Scorpio rising people, well, this energy, that's a big stellium of 5 planets falling in Capricorn, boom, there we are, is for you in the 3rd house. So this means that there is some karmic energy at play to do with communication. And so it's a time when you can ask, how is your communication going? Are you being authentic? Are you being real? Are you being honest? And maybe you need to restructure some of your communications with your siblings or other people and your networks in general. There is this big focus now on learning something new, gaining new skills. You might find, even because this energy is so karmic, this stellium, you might actually find that some skills that you might have had 3 lifetimes ago now start to manifest in your life, because this is a house of skills and all these planets of karma here. You might suddenly find that you've got a real aptitude for calligraphy, and you're like, wow, I didn't realize I could do that. That's amazing. Look at that. That's beautiful. Not that we use calligraphy a lot these days, but it's a beautiful old skill that unfortunately is dying out. And you're like, where did I get this talent from? Well, hey, it could well be from a few lifetimes ago when you were a scribe, or anything of that nature. Maybe you discover a talent for singing that you never knew you had, and it's a result of having been a jazz singer in the 20s or something in a previous incarnation. So we can notice new skills bubbling up with this intense energy focus in our 3rd house, new skills, new talents, new abilities that come to the fore. We might not even realize that they're actually talents that are manifesting from previous incarnations in our life. But that energy of learning new skills, developing new talents, also it's the energy of perhaps making money from our own hands. The 3rd house has to do with money we make independently. So if you've got a strong 3rd house natally, there's a strong likelihood that you'll run your own business of some sort. But similarly, when we've got a stellium in the 3rd house, we're going to be very our energy is going to be directed perhaps into having our own business, or doing some sort of venture. Doesn't mean it's your main business, because this is a transit. It's not going to be permanently in your life, but you might be focused now on having a good market stall where you can sell your jewelry, or you can sell your calligraphy works, or whatever it happens to be. So you might be thinking about making money, and your energy might be directed now into making money from your own skills and talents and abilities in some way, even if it's just a side hustle and not your main deal. But your thoughts are also going to be on creative expression at this time, because Mercury is moving through the sign of Pisces. So you're going to be thinking about, how can I express myself creatively? How can I use my hobbies to, make me happy? And of course, these two can tie in that regard. This is your skills and talents, and this house is your hobbies. So you might be looking for ways you can make a buck, make some money, do some trade out of your skills and hobbies right now. Thinking about, that woodworking, that sculpting I keep producing, everyone says it's wonderful and my home's full of it. Maybe I should start doing it for other people, So you'd be thinking about how you can utilize your hobbies, how you can enhance your creative expression, how you can enjoy your hobbies more, what ways you can experience pleasure in life. Your thought processes are going to go into those areas. You'll also be thinking a bit more about romance and pleasure and fun and joy in the 5th house, and maybe a bit about children as well. They'll be on your mind, your children, or your lover will be on your mind, or the idea of love might be on your mind more than usual at this time. And now finally, waiting till lucky last. Thank you, Sagittarius, for being so patient. I know you don't usually go last at all, so I do thank you for your patience. And for you guys, all this karmic, strong stellium energy is falling in your 2nd house. So there is a karmic association with resources and money and self-worth for you guys this week. It's very strong. In fact, you've actually had this very strong for 2.5 years with Saturn moving through this house. A purification of how you see the world from a material perspective. Lots of change that's been unfolding for you regarding the structures of finance in your life. For some people, it's meant getting a new job and making money from a new source, seeing your own self-worth and self-value and directing that into some money-making venture. That's often the case when we have a Saturn transit to the 2nd house and activation there. So for Sagittarius people, there's even more increased emphasis on these themes now, and a karmic releasing perhaps, or even a karmic harvesting of what you've sown in the past. Let's say, Sagittarius is a sign that has a lot to do with publishing. Let's say you have been developing, perhaps you wanted to publish a cookbook, and you've accumulated recipes, you've made the recipes, you've taken photos, and you want to self-publish your own cookbook. And this week there's a lot of energy and attention focused on what you can make money from. And so you go to a publisher this week and you say, here's my cookbook, and they say, we love it, let's get the presses rolling. And there's a new income source that you can generate because you've taken some initiative to change how you make money. So that's just one example. Look, there can be a million different examples. How do you want to make money? How do you want to generate resources in the world? You've got to ask yourself the question this week. And so the seeds you've sown, let's say to make a cookbook, by gathering over many, many years all your favorite recipes and so on, can now reach a fruition and a harvest time when that cookbook manifests into reality and then generates for you a revenue source, an income source. Also, you'll probably find for Sagittarius rising people this week that your thoughts are very directed to home, family, your heritage. So you're going to be thinking a lot this week, I feel, about your maternal line, or maybe the lineage in your family from the nurturing, caring parent. You might want to reconnect with some ancestors, some aunts or uncles who know about your family story or something. You might also be very focused and thinking a lot about your home. Is your home functioning as well as it could be? Do you have all that you need in your home? Do I need an extra bedroom? Do I need a home office? You'll be thinking about the circumstances of your home and how to improve, how to make your home more peaceful, more calm, more a place of solace. With Pisces as your fourth house, you will enjoy having your home as a source of escape, and you'll be thinking a lot about how can I make my home my source of escape and restoration as well. So thoughts are going to be directed this week to fourth house matters, family, like I said, lineage, home, actual home, and being the sign of Pisces, there might even be a connection to overseas home, heritage, lineage, and community. So maybe you've emigrated from another country to where you live now, and you'll be thinking a lot about your family back home or your community back home, and wanting to connect and communicate with them now. So that is everything in a nutshell in terms of the stellium in Capricorn and Mercury's movement now through the sign of Pisces positively. Thank God that Mercury retrograde is over. I want to thank you for joining me, and do join me next week for another astrological sojourn. I'm also running a series at the moment on a Sunday looking at Saturn's transits through each house in the horoscope. So do join me for that, where we go in depth about what Saturn's transits through each house mean. And of course, coming up to Saturn moving into the sign of Aquarius, this is something that's fresh on our minds right now. So do join me for that on Sundays, Australian Eastern Standard Time. Check out my YouTube channel and subscribe if you'd like to get notification of that one. But let's close with a prayer. Energy of love in the universe, we are grateful, so grateful for the lessons available to us this week that are going to enable us to understand better, to connect more with spirit and divine, and to take another step closer back to unification with God, becoming one. So reveal to us the truth behind the circumstances that unfold for us this week. May we understand what's going on. May we see from a big picture perspective so that we can navigate these times with grace, with kindness and compassion, and come out of the other side better, more whole people. And so it is. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll catch you next week.